Nanomaterials. Nanomaterials have extremely small size. They have at least one dimension below 100 nanometers. Nanomaterials can be nanoscale in one dimension, two dimensions, or even in three dimensions. The different forms the nanomaterials can exhibit are fused aggregated forms with spherical, tubular, irregular shapes. The common types of nanomaterials include carbon nanotubes, graphene, and fullerene. Uh, Nanomaterials have various applications in field of nanotechnology, and it displays different physical and chemical properties from those of normal chemicals. That is, it's different from bulk materials. Example, silver nanotube and carbon nanotube. And these are some pictures of different dimension of nanomaterials, 0 dimension, 1 dimension, and 2D and 3D nanomaterials. Um, So the first type of nanomaterials is carbon nanotubes. These are cylindrical tubes with a central hollow core, and these are formed by rolling up of graphite sheets. And it is a one-dimensional material, but the aspect ratio is greater than 1000. Carbon nanotubes are categorized as single-walled and multi-walled nanotubes. And single-walled nanotubes are formed by rolling up of a single graphite layer like this. Only a single layer of graphene is rolled, and we can form a single-walled nanotube. And multi-walled nanotubes consist of multiple rolled layers of graphene. And the properties of carbon nanotubes, these are the strongest and stiffest materials discovered in terms of tensile strength and elastic modulus. And this is due to the presence of covalent sp2 bonds, which is formed between the individual carbon atoms. They exhibit high thermal electrical conductivity and can withstand high amounts of pressures without undergoing deformation. The chemical reactivity of carbon nanotubes is enhanced in comparison to graphene. The applications of carbon nanotubes, it's used in gas storage, anti-fouling paint, used in for batteries to improve their lifetime and to produce strong fibers and fabrics. And it's used in micro and nano electronics. And also they have various biomedical applications. And here, scientists have developed the first fabric that automatically cools or insulates depending on the weather conditions. It exhibits the property depending on the weather condition. It can cool, it adjusts to the weather conditions. And the next type of nanomaterials, fullerenes. So how are fullerenes synthesized? We need to set up an electric arc which consists of two graphite electrodes and in a controlled atmosphere of helium gas, and temperature should be greater than 4000 degrees Celsius and pressure should be in the range of 150 to 200 torr. Under these conditions, graphite is vaporized. After this, a mixture of fullerenes are obtained, and by condensing the evaporated carbon, the main product, fullerene C60, is obtained, and it's extracted and crystallized using benzene. And properties of fullerenes, it has a soccer ball shape like this, and it's called as Buckminster fullerene, named after Buckminster Fuller, and it is the most stable form of fullerene. It contains 6 membered rings as well as 5 membered rings, and these are 20 in number. A 6-membered ring can fuse with 6 or 5 membered rings, but 5-membered rings can only fuse with 6-membered rings. So all carbon atoms in sp2 are sp2 hybridized, and each of these carbon atoms forms 3 sigma bonds with other 3 carbon atoms. So the remaining electron gives the aromatic character to the molecule. So the most striking property of C60 molecule is that it has high symmetry. There are 120 symmetry operations possible, like rotations around axis or reflections in a plane. These are soluble in common solvents like benzene, toluene, or chloroform. So this is the structure. Applications of fullerene. They're extensively used in several biomedical applications. Most of nanomaterials are used in medicine, and they include design of high performance MRI and X-ray imaging contrast agents. In electronics is used for photoelectronic device, and optics they're used for optical fibers, and polymer composite of C60 molecule is used in making an organic photovoltaic cell. Then fullerenes are used as antiviral agents, so they can protect from virus. So it is used. This use is provided by its unique molecular structure and biological compatibility. So the next type is graphene. It is a 2D nanomaterial and it is a monolayer of sp2 bonded carbon atoms. Uh, and here the atoms are arranged in a hexagonal lattice, and it exhibits high electronic conductivity. Uh, then the extraordinary characteristics of graphene are originated from the 2p orbitals, which form pi state bonds. The applications of graphene, it has a lot of metallurgical applications, for example, powder metallurgy, and it has been used in some fundamental electronic devices as well, like capacitors and field effect transistors. And it is a transparent and flexible conductor that can be used for various material or device applications, like light emitting diodes, smart windows, or phones. So the structure of graphene. So it's a monolayer of sp2 hybridized carbon where it's arranged in hexagonal manner. So here scientists have recently developed an ultra-sensitive graphene enhanced sensor. So it has exhibited impressive sensitive properties, like more than 100 times. It shows 100 times higher than most sensitive materials and exhibits more resistance as well. So the structures of all. So nanotechnology is, as told before, it has extensively used in medicine. So to prevent the ongoing virus also, um, nanotechnology is of help. So the research is going on under this, and it has shown considerable promise in designing sensors for developing quick response tests. So nanotechnologists are carrying out their social responsibility so to tackle the ongoing global health emergency. Thank you.
Yes, it was
Thank
very
you.
informative. Very good. Nice it was. Okay. And thank you for showing your interest. Hmm?
Thank you.
Yeah. Next year, Martira.
Ma'am, Navya, ma'am.
Yeah, you can start.
Yes, ma'am, 1 second. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it is visible.
My topic is on synthesis of nanomaterials. There are two approaches for synthesizing a nanomaterial. That is top-down approach and bottom-down approach. Uh, in top-down approach, the bulkier or the large materials are broken into smaller pieces, which are nano-sized particles. That is top-down approach, whereas the in the bottom-up approach, the smaller atoms or smaller sized atoms or molecules are self-assembled to form larger materials that are nano-sized materials. In top-down approach, we usually large objects or large-sized materials are broken into pieces by grinding or milling process. So let us discuss first about the top-down approach. In top-down approach, the nanomaterial is built from large, bulkier materials and reducing them by externally controlled forces in regulated way into nanoscale. Here, external control forces are used to convert the large materials into small size nanoparticle materials. Um, the particles are converted to nanomaterials by process of milling or grinding process. Here we use bigger tools on the tiny objects to break them into tiny nanoparticles. As we use larger or the bigger tools, the size of the size and shape of the nanomaterials cannot be controlled by us for a larger extent, because as we use larger objects on smaller particles, there is lot of internal stress created within the nanoparticle, which leads to surface defects and contamination. In this approach, there is no control over the process for the formation of nanoparticles. So this is not much suitable for for the synthesis of nanoparticles. So let us see the bottom-up approach. In bottom-up approach, smaller components arrange themselves into they self assemble and form complex nanoparticles. In this approach, nano components are made from precursor. Here we use the precursor, the starting reactant for making the nanoparticles. It might be solid, liquid, or gaseous in phase. They are integrated in the building blocks within the final material structure, either physical or chemical deposition process. Here, as we take uh, we can use solid, liquid, or gases as the precursor. The precursors are integrated or self-assembled to form larger, bulkier nanomaterials when compared to the smaller atoms or molecules by chemical deposition or physical processes. Self-assembly is most widely used method for designing the controlling assembly of nanomaterial scale objects. Self-assembly of the smaller objects like atoms or molecules takes place to form the nanoparticles. It promises a better chance. Here, the advantages are nanostructure with less defects and more homogeneous chemical composition. Colloidal dispersion is a good example for bottom approach. Um, mm, there are three methods by which we can synthesize with the bottom approach, that are salt gel process and salt gel process, precipitation method, and chemical evaporation condensation method. First, let us discuss about the salt gel process. In salt gel process, it is possible to produce the nanomaterial with predefined properties in a simple process and relatively low process cost. The sol is called colloidal solution. Sol is nothing but the colloidal solution made up of solid particles which is dispersed in liquid phase, whereas gel is the colloidal solution made up of liquid particles dispersed in solid phase. So sol gel process consists of chemical transformation of the sol into gel state with subsequent post-treatment and transition into solid nanomaterials. This method will involve a few steps like preparation of the sol, conversion of the sol into gel, aging of the gel, removal of the solvent, heat treatment. Let us discuss in detail. In salt gel synthesis, either the metal salt, we take the precursor as metal salt or metal alkoxide to synthesize the nanoparticles, that is the metal oxide. Metal oxide is the nanoparticle which is to be formed, and precursor used or the building material which is used is metal oxide or metal salt. First, the sol is prepared. Sol is prepared by uh, mixing the metal oxide with the suitable solvent. Here, if we add water as a solvent, the metal oxide powder will not dissolve in the water. So we use alcohol as the solvent. Sol is further converted into gel. For the formation of the gel, hydrolysis and condensation processes are done. They occur sequentially and parallel, forming a gel. For hydrolysis, the metal oxide, and water combines to form that metal hydroxide. This process is called as hydrolysis. The metal hydroxide, which is formed, is nothing but the sol. The sol then reacts with the metal alkoxide to form the gel. This process is called as condensation. From the formed gel is allowed to occur aging. The formed gel undergoes a process of aging where it grows where it will grow with taking uh, to form a nanoscale cluster. The encapsulated liquid can be removed. The extra solvent that is there, that can be removed to form the nanoparticle by evaporation method. The obtained sample is heated at high temperature to form nanoparticles. Detailed schematic representation is shown here. Here the precursor, that is the metal alkoxide, and the solvent, the alcohol is mixed and formed a homogeneous solution. After continuous stirring, when water is added to the homogeneous solution of metal alkoxide and alcohol, uh, hydrolysis occurs and sol is formed. We get a heterogeneous colloidal suspension of metal hydroxide in water. Then condensation occurs by the process of aging. Condensation occurs to form the gel. It is a gel which is homogeneous in nature. For extraction of nanomaterials, we can extract it by three methods: thermal evaporation, calcination, and supercritical condensation. In supercritical condensation, we have to maintain pressure and temperature above the critical pressure and critical temperature, which will remove the solvent from the gel. The product is called as aerogel. Here the morphology is that is the size and the shape of the material will be retained. So this process cannot be economical because as we require a high that is critical pressure and critical temperature to be maintained, a lot of energy will be required. So this is not so economical. The other method is thermal evaporation. In thermal evaporation, the morphology might be slightly changed, and it takes a lot of time as we allow the gel that is formed to evaporate at room temperature. So it takes a longer period of time to form the nanomaterial. So the best and best method to obtain the extract the nanomaterial is calcination. In calcination, we heat the gel at 800 degrees Celsius to get the nanomaterial. We prepare in this we heat the gel at high temperature, and there is a change in the morphology also. But if morphology doesn't matter so much, then calcination is the best way, economical way to access the nanomaterial. The other method of preparation of nanomaterial is by precipitation method. Here we prepare anionic and cationic solution and mix them together, and it is precipitated. When cationic and anionic solutions are prepared and mixed, they form precipitate. This precipitate is filtered. This the filtrate what is obtained after the filtration, that is washed to remove the contaminants and dirt. This washed filtrate is dried and calcined to obtain the nanomaterial. The other method is here is a schematic representation. In this, anionic and cationic solutions are mixed. We can see over here accumulation occurs, and precipitation of the anion and cationic solution mixture occurs, and precipitate is filtered. Then calcination is undergoing. Then we get the nanoparticles. The other method is chemical vapor condensation process. In this approach, mixture of gaseous reactants are delivered into the reaction chamber. Here, gaseous reactants are delivered to the reaction chamber. And this gaseous vapor of metal organic compounds are used as precursor. Here, instead of inside the chamber, the chemical reaction of the gas induces to undergo pyrolysis reaction at suitable condition at maintaining the temperature and pressure. The product formed is condensed and formed on the product is formed on the substrate. The condensation of the nanomaterials or the particles is occurring on the substrate. The deposition of the nanomaterials are done by condensation process. Here we can see the simplified form. We use the carrier gas for the movement of the producer gas. They settle on the surface of the substrate. At high temperature, the carrier gases are evaporated, and even the undesired gases are expelled out. The product, that is the nanomaterial which is required, is only settled at the is deposited on the substrate. This process is called as chemical evaporation condensation. Here, condensation process is involved to operate to get the nanomaterials. This is the end of the synthesis of nanomaterials. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really nice, Navya. And you covered most of the topic. And those who are writing third IA, I think it's really a revision for you guys, all these 3 seminars which we are conducting today. Okay. Thank you, Navya. Diksha, you are ready?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So, good afternoon, guys. I'm presenting on sewage treatment. So, today mainly I'll be focusing on primary and secondary treatment. So, before we get into the entire process, let's know what is sewage. Sewage water, also known as wastewater, is characterized by volume or rate of flow, physical condition, and chemical and toxic constituents. So basically, it's a complex mixture of high concentrations of ammonium nitrate, nitrogen, phosphorus, and many other organic matters, which is measured by determining BOD and COD, biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. Sewage water mainly consists of grey water and black water. As you can see here, I've highlighted both. Grey water consists of sinks, bathtub, shower, dishwashers, and washing machine. the waste collected from these, and black water is the water used to flush toilets combined with human waste and toilet papers. So basically, sewage travels from a building's plumbing into the on-site sewage facility. So these are the pictures which shows us clearly the main sources of sewage and wastewater. Next, the importance of sewage treatment. Why do we need sewage treatment? If the domestic sewage, which contains heavy load of biological oxygen demand, pathogenic bacteria, and annoying smell, is left without treated, it can cause many possible effects like depletion of dissolved oxygen, which will cause destruction of many aquatic life, and pathogenic bacteria causing waterborne diseases, and the color and smell affecting the quality of water. But the reality is, most of the wastewater produced globally remains untreated, causing widespread water pollution. A global estimate by UN Habitat is that 90% of all wastewater is untreated and released into the environment untreated. So, what happens? Many farmers are increasingly using untreated wastewater for irrigation. And this will be a major destruction for people eating raw vegetables, because the raw vegetables that have been irrigated with polluted water can cause many diseases. So the domestic sewage therefore needs proper treatment before it is either discharged into natural water bodies or recycled. The main aim of the treatment is to removal of oxygen demanding organic compounds. Otherwise, they will deplete the entire dissolved oxygen and will not have the aquatic life stable. So there are 3 treatments carried out in 3 stages, that is primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. So let us look at the primary treatment. Primary treatment mainly involves 4 processes: screening, slit and grit removal, oil and gas removal, and sedimentation. So let's look into screening. Screening is physical process by which we remove large suspending and floating materials like rags, papers, plastics, metals, etc., so that it does not damage the piping and downstream equipments. And also, it clears the clogging. Basically, we use bar screens and mesh screens. This picture shows us bar screens, and this one shows the mesh screens. And again, we have 2 categories: coarse screens and fine screens. Coarse screens are used to filter out large particles, and fine screens for smaller particles. So the next process is slit and grit. Slit and grit includes gravel, sand materials, and heavy solid materials, which are heavier than the organic biodegradable solids. It also includes eggshells, bone chips, seeds, coffee grounds, and large organic particles, which is basically from food waste. Removal of such grit and slit particles will not make any damage to mechanical equipments, and it will not get accumulated and cause disturbance in anaerobic digesters. So these are some pictures of bar screening, and this is slit and grit removal. So you can look into how it is being cleared out. This is a bar screener, and even this one. Next, removal of oil and grease. For removal of oil and grease, we mainly use skimming tanks. Skimming tanks are nothing but chambers arranged so that the floating matter like oil, fat, grease rise and remain on the surface of the wastewater until removed, while the liquid flows out continuously. So then they are converted into soapy mixture by blowing compressed air through sewage water in skimming tanks and lifted to the surface. So the floating oil through the skimming media such as belt, tube, rope. This is a picture of a skimming tank. You can see this media runs back to the machine to be wiped clean. Next is very important process, sedimentation process. It removes very finer suspended particles and impurities. This is brought about by plain sedimentation in continuous flow type sedimentation tank. So continuous flow type sedimentation tank is flow always takes place, but with a very small velocity. During this flow, suspended particles settle at the bottom of the tank, and flow may be vertical or horizontal. So this is a clear picture of continuous flow type sedimentation tank. These are some advantages of continuous flow tank. We are in this case we are using continuous flow tank for sedimentation. Next, we'll get into the secondary treatment. Secondary treatment, also known as biological treatment, involves aerobic biochemical oxidation. Aerobic biochemical oxidation is nothing but the whole sewage water after sedimentation, when subjected to oxidation, will release carbon dioxide. That is, the organic matter is converted to carbon dioxide, nitrogen into ammonia, and finally nitrites into nitrates. So secondary treatment can be generally accomplished by two methods: trickling filter method or activated sludge method. Activated sludge method. Activated sludge is defined as the sludge which settles down after the sewage has been aggregated freely in the presence of abundant atmospheric oxygen. Activated sludge contains a large number of aerobic bacteria and other organisms and acts as a fertilizing constituent when it is mixed with raw sewage containing sufficient oxygen. So it performs two functions mainly. It oxidizes the organic solids, then it promotes coagulation and flocculation and converts colloidal and dissolved solids into settlable solids. So activated sludge process involves extensive aeration of sewage water and the process of aerobic oxidation being enhanced by the addition of a part of sludge from previous oxidation process into sewage water. The added sludge from the previous oxidation batch is known as activated sludge. Since it contains large number of aerobic bacteria and other microorganisms. So the sedimented sewage water is mixed with proper quantity of activated sludge and the mixture is sent to the aeration tank, in which the mixture is aerated and aerated for several hours. During this process, organic matters are oxidized. After the process is completed, the effluent is sent to the sedimentation tank where sludge is deposited and the water free from the organic matter is drawn off. A part of settled sludge is sent back to the for seeding fresh batch of sewage. So I will be showing a video now. Ma'am, is the video seen?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You can maximize it.
Ma'am, is it seen?
Yeah, visible.
Yes, ma'am.
You can keep the volume if it is having.
We need a bit of help from our friends, the friendly bacteria. Fortunately, these happy, hungry guys love all the organic matter in the sewage that we want to get rid of. In fact, it's their huge maze of pipes that connect your house to the sewerage network. The sewerage network is all the pipes, pumps and treatment plants used to remove and treat the sewage. Just think, right now, under the ground, raw sewage is travelling to the sewage treatment plant. When the sewage arrives at the treatment plant, we screen it to remove all the unwanted objects. We find all sorts of strange things that shouldn't be there. Toys, false teeth, jewellery and even underpads.
We also find lots of other items that cause big problems for the treatment plant. Things like baby wipes and cleaning wipes, nappies and fats and oils. Once all the sewage is screened, some treatment plants have special tanks that hold all these screened sewage and control how much sewage enters the treatment plant at any one time. This helps to ensure the quality of the treatment is always consistent.
When the sewage is released from the holding tanks, the treatment process starts. Sewage treatment is one great big science project. It's a complex process and we can't do it alone. We need a bit of help from our friends, the friendly bacteria. Fortunately, these happy, hungry guys love all the organic matter in the sewage that we want to get rid of. In fact, it's their favourite food.
That's right. These guys eat all the carbon and reduce the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen in the sewage that can impact the health of our waterways. So we feed them in huge bioreactors filled with lots of oxygen. They can eat and breathe and have lots of hungry babies that eat more and more and more.
When the nutrients have all been gobbled up, it's time to move the sewage onto special clarifiers that separate the solids from the water in the sewage. The solids are called sludge or biosolids. We drain them out, dry them out and send them off to help fertilise crops for animal food. Some of the friendly bacteria that are left get a little break, but then get sent straight back to work in the bioreactors for more gobbling. And the remaining water is our treated sewage. It's now called effluent and it gets sent on to be cleaned and filtered again.
By now, our treated sewage is looking pretty good, but we need to make sure it's ultra clean. So we filter it, then we disinfect it with ultraviolet rays or chlorine to reduce any hidden germs or nasties that might have snuck through. All the way through our treatment processes, the treated sewage is tested to make sure it meets strict rules. At the end of the process, the treated sewage is called effluent and it's been tested for quality more times than bottled water.
Around 24 to 48 hours after the sewage arrived at the sewage treatment plant, it's been screened, broken down, eaten up by bugs, separated, filtered and disinfected. And tested and tested and tested. It's now clean, treated water, ready to continue on its journey through the urban water cycle.
The process is complete, but the work is never done here at Unity Water. We all use water and we all make sewage every day. Run your tap, flush your toilet, clean your dishes, have a bath. When you're done, the process starts again.
And our team at Unity Water will be there to protect you and the environment.
Yes, ma'am, this is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diksha. It was having nice content, good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all of you for joining this.